Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at a really interesting document you sent over. It's a legal order filed pretty recently in the Bryan Kohberger case up in Idaho.
Yeah, from the 4th Judicial District, Ada County.
Exactly. And our mission, is to really get into this document and records hold order defense. We want to understand, why was it issued, what's it asking for, and maybe what it signals about where things are heading.
It's dated May 2025 from Judge Stephen Hippler. And you're right, it might look like just, procedure, but it actually tells us quite a bit about the court's thinking right now.
Okay, so it wasn't out of the blue. The order itself points to a specific Dateline NBC show.
That's right, The Terrible Night on King Road, which aired May 9th, 2025.
So that broadcast seems to be the trigger here.
It really looks that way. The court explicitly says the program reported sensitive information not previously publicly circulated. That phrase alone kind of flags the core issue, doesn't it?
Yeah, it suggests a leak. Something got out that shouldn't have.
Exactly. And the worry is that it potentially violates a non-dissemination order, basically a gag order on certain details.
And the court doesn't just stop there. It spells out why this is such a big deal. It mentions undermining the rule of law. And kind of worryingly, that it might involve people whose job it is to uphold the law.
That's a heavy implication. When the court talks about undermining the rule of law, well, it's really about the integrity of the whole process. If people inside the case are leaking things, it shakes public confidence. Is the system fair? Is it impartial?
And it creates practical problems too,
Yeah.
right? Like finding an unbiased jury.
Oh, absolutely. That's a huge one. If potential jurors have heard all this stuff that might not even be admissible in court, how can they be impartial?
It makes that whole voir dire process way harder.
Definitely. The standard is, jurors basing their decision only on trial evidence, pretrial leaks, especially of non-public info. That makes finding those jurors incredibly tough. This order feels like the court trying to protect that process up front.
And then there's the money angle. A longer jury selection, maybe having to sequester the jury. That all adds up.
It really does. Extended jury selection means more court time, more resources, and sequestration. That's a huge logistical and frankly expensive undertaking.
Right. And the court is careful to say this affects both sides' right to a fair trial. It's not just about the prosecution getting a conviction.
Good point. It's about Kohberger getting a fair shake, too, without potential jurors being swayed by leaked info before the defense even presents its case.
So the court's goal here seems pretty clear. They want to find the source.
Yes, identify and hold them accountable. The order explicitly mentions deterring future violations. So it's about fixing this instance and sending a message.
Okay, the why is clear. Let's get into the why. It's called a records hold order defense. Who's on the hook here?
Well, it casts a really wide net. It says all persons who at any time, past or present, work directly or indirectly for or on behalf of defendant Bryan Kohberger or his defense counsel, or otherwise engaged in the investigation on their behalf. So basically, anyone ever connected to the defense team. Lawyers, investigators, staff, consultants, you name it.
Wow, okay. Past or present, too.
Yeah.
And what are they being told not to do?
They're barred from, deleting, discarding, overwriting, destroying, altering, or making unavailable any records. And that covers physical documents and all kinds of electronic data.
Now, the types of records mentioned are super specific, not just formal files.
No, not at all. It includes files, documents, even metadata, and then all communications, emails, texts, DMs, private messages, phone logs.
Communication logs, too.
Yep. And crucially, it stresses this applies to both work and personal accounts, devices, apps.
So they can't say, oh, that was on my personal phone.
Doesn't look like it. The court seems to be closing any potential loopholes there, acknowledging that leaks don't always happen through official channels.
Okay, and the subject of these communications they need to preserve.
It has to relate to communications with third persons, specifically including the media or anyone outside law enforcement.
So talking to reporters or maybe even, other outside parties.
Potentially, yes. And the communication needs to be about either the investigation or defense of Kohberger himself, or facts and allegations related to him that were reported either to law enforcement or the defense, or just the homicide investigation generally.
Gotcha. And there's that instruction, if you're not sure if something fits, save it anyway.
Exactly. Err on the side of caution. Put the burden on the defense team to preserve everything potentially relevant.
And disable auto-delete features.
Immediately. Any system feature that might automatically erase data needs to be turned off.
Now, there's also a specific job for the lead defense counsel, Ann Taylor.
Right. Within 7 days from May 15th, she had to submit a list in camera.
In camera, meaning just for the judge.
Correct. private, not shared with the prosecution or public. And this list needs to name everyone, past and present, on the defense side, known to have accessed specific types of information.
And the court lists examples of that information, doesn't it? Things they seem particularly focused on.
Yes, very specific examples. Surveillance video of suspect vehicle 1.
Okay.
The AT&T phone records for Kohberger, the actual content of his phone and other devices, his social media, including search history, photos, even info from his Amazon account.
Wow.
And significantly, it loops back directly to the broadcast. Any information referenced in the May 9, 2025 Dateline episode.
So they're really connecting the dots there. And she doesn't just make the list, she has to share the order too.
Yes. Provide a copy of this order to everyone named on that list and then document that she did it. It creates a clear paper trail of awareness.
Accountability.
Precisely. Everyone subject to the order knows exactly what's required and, importantly, what happens if they don't comply.
Which brings us to the consequences. What are they?
Well, the order states clearly that non-compliance may be grounds for a finding of contempt of court.
And that's not trivial.
Not at all. Contempt can mean fines, potentially even jail time. And the order adds that other civil and criminal consequences might apply too. So the court is signaling it's taking this extremely seriously.
Okay, and just to wrap up the details, the order is from May 2025, Judge Stephen Hippler.
And there's that certificate of service from May 15th, 2025. That just confirms it was officially sent out to all the key players.
Yeah.
The prosecution, the AG's office, defense counsel, public defender's office. Formalizes everything.
So pulling this all together.
Yeah.
This deep dive really shows the court reacting strongly to a suspected leak, likely sparked by that Dateline show.
Yeah.
The response is this detailed records hold order aimed squarely at the defense team.
Yeah, demanding they preserve everything communication-wise and identify who had access to really sensitive info.
And the threat of contempt charges just underlines how critical the court views protecting the trial's integrity.
It's quite a proactive move, isn't it? Not just reacting after the fact, but actively investigating the source and trying to prevent more leaks. It really highlights that classic tension in big cases like this.
Right.
The public's, intense interest versus the absolute need for a fair process for the defendant.
So for you listening, maybe think about that balance.
Yeah.
The public wants to know, understandably, it's a huge case, but the court has to protect Bryan Kohberger's right to a fair trial, free from prejudice caused by leaks. How do you think these two powerful forces, public interest and judicial fairness, will keep shaping things as this case moves forward? Definitely something to ponder.